Hi YouTube, welcome to Pagan Perspective. This is Megan, aka Sabiri. Today is Friday. Hi guys. So this week we are talking about ancestor veneration. I've talked about this before. It's a huge part of my practice. So this question was asking for specific things, which you know is a little bit hard for me if you've been watching. If you haven't been watching me or haven't seen those videos, so I'm a hereditary, and so parts of my path are not open knowledge, so to speak. So that can make it a little bit difficult for me to share specific things. So I'm going to do my best to share what I can. So ancestor veneration is super important to my path. As a hereditary, our family line is everything. Our bloodline is everything. So using the ancestors as part of every single ritual is, I'd go so far as to say essential. Really, it is basically the main component of what I do. So ancestor worship and ancestor veneration is incredibly important. And so one of the things that we do is we make sure that we bring the ancestors into every ritual space. So that is definitely something that that we feel is super important. And by bringing the ancestors into our sacred space, what we're doing is we are able to tap into energy that isn't just our own. We're actually tapping into family line energy. And here's the thing, everyone has ancestors. So regardless of whether or not it's a hereditary path or not, you can still call on your ancestral line to provide you energy during a ritual. Everyone can do it. It's not just, if you have been pagan, passed down. So think about that when you're doing ritual. Try and call on the ancestors the same way that you might call on the elements, the same way that you would call on the god and the goddess, the same way that you would call on any of the deities that you might be working with. Also call on the ancestors. Have them around. Like it matters. It really does. And they can help out a lot. So one of the ways in which we like to also venerate our ancestors is with an ancestral shrine. So those are things that we have all throughout the house, and they're important pieces. In a way, everyone does this. Maybe not everyone, but I've seen it done so many times over and over again. When I walk into other people's homes, they have objects and items that have been passed down generation to generation. They mean nothing now as far as the actual use of the object, right? However, they're important because they were passed down, right? So a quilt that maybe you can't use anymore, it is purely for decoration because it's so old and you don't want it to get hurt, but you keep it around because it's been passed down from generation to generation. The energy in that item is amazing. So, and then there's items that can be used, which are really great. Those are the ones that I still use, and I use on my altar and in practice. And, you have to be super careful because it's nerve-wracking, to use something that could get hurt. So good news is that a lot of the things that have been passed down for me are not things that can get as hurt. A few things that I do have that could break or something like that, I keep very, very secure because I want to make sure that they last from generation to generation. And they've lasted this long, and so I really don't want to be the one to mess that up. But yes, so keeping those objects, and people do that regardless of their faith. They keep those objects because objects hold energy, especially ones that have been passed down. And those are important. So tap into those. You probably even have stuff around your house that was from a grandparent or great-grandparent or something like that, where you could use that as a focal point in your ritual to focus your ancestor veneration during your ritual. So just thought that that would be something that you could use. Other ways are remembering. Remembering is super important. So making sure that you take the time out of a moment that maybe something triggers a memory, right? Instead of just brushing it off and being like, oh, I'm not going to think about that right now. Actually taking the time to sit there and remember that person. Remember them in all the different ways, right? Really latch into it, allow your body into that memory. Those are the ways that we venerate the ancestors, right? Taking them into ourselves. So those are just a few ways that I venerate ancestors in my daily practice. Also is telling stories. So making sure at family events that every single one of our ancestors that we have stories about, we make sure we tell them. It's super important because it keeps that part alive for everyone, and it also keeps the energy and the spirit flowing. It keeps your ancestors close. It keeps them happy. It keeps them wanting to help you out. And then when you call them in ritual, they definitely help you out more. So another culture that really venerates ancestors is the Japanese culture, right? And Chinese culture. So a lot of Asian cultures in general venerate ancestors, and for them, they don't want to displease their ancestors, right? And so that's a big component of it too, is, if you've got people who are watching over you, you don't want to do some things that maybe you shouldn't, right? If you know that they're watching, if you're having those conversations with them every day, if you have a good relationship with them, that's something where, should you really be doing that? That moral decision of, is this right or wrong, right? And so it can be really helpful when talking to kids, right? Teaching them ancestor veneration, letting them know that, no, nothing bad's going to happen to you. It's not like sin. However, do you really want to disappoint somebody? Is that really the right thing to do, to go hit that kid or to steal something, right? And so just sort of building that moral compass, like, what does your insides tell you? What is right and wrong? That sort of thing. So anyway, that's it for today. I wanted to keep it short and sweet because I knew last week was kind of long. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend. And as always, blessed be. Aloha.